from the Geeks team, and I'll be doing a small basic tutorial on Android development using the Eclipse IDE. Now with mobile development and mobile applications being the recent trend nowadays, with people moving from the web actually to actual mobile applications, Android has really become a huge hit because of its open source nature, and Google has really embraced the situation to actually make Android one of the largest stakeholder in the market right now. So it plays a huge role if you're a developer. So I'll be doing a small Hello World tutorial using the Eclipse IDE on how to create a simple Hello World application and how you can actually play around with the Eclipse IDE's environment, as well as the different languages that you require and the basics regarding Android programming. So to begin with, you'll have to download the Adt Bundle, that is the Android Developer Tools, from the Android Developer website, that is developer.android.com. So you can just navigate to that page, the link shown above, and you should be able to download the Adt Bundle over here. You can see you can go over to develop over here on the top, or else you can just navigate to get the SDK. And you can download the SDK bundle. Mine is a Mac OS X, so that's why it's showing download the SDK Adt bundle from Mac. If you're using a Windows or Linux, it should, if you're downloading it on the system which you want to actually use for development, then it should show the operating system that you're using. If not, then you can just go scroll down and download for other platforms over here, and download it for whichever platform you want. Android, the developer.android link also has a lot of tutorials, references, guides, and stuff like that about Android programming, so you can go through that as well. There's a lot of information there that will help you installing the Eclipse IDE along with Adt and stuff. The advantage with downloading the Adt bundle directly from these guys is it comes with the latest SDK, and it also gives you the Eclipse IDE with the Adt plugin installed, so you're ready for app development right from the minute that you download the thing. So I've already got downloaded. So once you download it, you should have a folder like this, which has two folders, Eclipse and SDK. The SDK is actually the folder which contains all the SDKs that you have downloaded right now. Since I've just downloaded it fresh from the Android website, it should only have the SDK 17, which is the 4.1 or 4.2 version of Android. And if you download a lot more of the SDKs for lower versions as well, that is 16, 15, and so on going down, you will have those as well in that folder. And the next folder is the Eclipse IDE, where you have all the Eclipse files and folders. The advantage with this bundle is that you do not have to download or install any particular application on your system. You just have to double click on the Eclipse icon, and you have the Android Developer Tools running and the Eclipse IDE, which already has the whole setup installed into it, as you will see. If you're new to Android programming, then you should have a bit of basics in Java. You should know about the difference between a class and an object, and basic stuff regarding swing and AWT, event programming and stuff like that. Object listeners will be very important when you're coming to programming stuff like here. I have already a lot of projects that are open, so let's just close them off. And then, as you can see, this is the Eclipse IDE that we get using. If you have the Android symbols or these things right up here showing, then you have installed it properly. If you're downloading directly from the Android website, then everything should come just like this. You have a package explorer on the left, which shows all the packages that are present, or the projects that are present actually, and we'll see the project structure later. On the bottom over here, you have a lot of consoles and stuff like that. This is what actually shows the current status of the server. You can see over here it's loading the SDK and stuff like that. So this is where it shows the current status of servers, the apps, and what's installing, if there are any errors. That's what happens over here. On the right over here, we actually have an outline that is an empty space that's being shown right now. if you work with NetBeans and JSPs and stuff like that, you should know the term palette. Once we start programming, you'll have a palette over here from which you can actually drag and drop stuff. So that'll be cool as well. So as I was saying, you have to have basic knowledge in Java to actually do Android programming. And another important thing is XML, because that's what you'll be using to actually design the UI and stuff like that. So those two will be playing very important roles. That should be pretty much it. So let's start creating our Hello World project. So for the first thing, we'll go over to File, New, and you can see we have Android application project right over here. The reason why I have it over here is because I've been using the Android application project link regularly. If you don't have it over here, do not worry, you should have it in Other. Go over to Other, and you should have a folder like this called Android. If you open up Android, you should have Android application project over there. So click on Next, and over here it'll first ask you the application name. So let's say video demo as the application name, and the project name just comes up automatically. If you want to leave it like that, leave it, or else you can change it, that's your wish. And the package name, you can give anything as you want. Since I work for the Geeks organization, I'll give org.geeks as the package name. And over here on the bottom, you can see it says minimum required SDK, API 8, Android 2.0, Froyo, and then you have the target SDK, then you have compile, with, and theme. So the minimum required SDK is basically the minimum version of Android on which your app actually runs. So if you're saying the minimum required SDK is API 8, that is Android 2.2, your application will work on phones which are running Android 2.2, and it runs up to the target SDK, which over here is Android 4.2. So your application should run on phones running 4.2 or below, and 2.2 and above. So if it's below 2.2 or above 4.2, then your application won't run on a particular phone. So whenever you're developing an application, make sure that you know your target audience, because you need to know which phones you want to run your application on. And if it's not compatible with a certain Android version, then I would say you should leave that out. You can change your Android version right over here. We will leave it at Android 2.2. And the compile with this, basically, you always compile your application for whichever target SDK you're using. And since our target SDK is API 17, we will compile it for that as well. We can change that as well, but since our target SDK is API 17, we will leave it like that. And theme over here is you can actually select your default theme. We're using Hololight with Dark Action Bar as a default theme. When you drag and drop things, theme is already installed by default onto your application's UI. So next step would be click Next. What the Create Custom Launcher icon actually does is it asks us whether we want to actually create a custom launcher icon for our application, or if we want to use the default one. What a launcher icon is when you open up your Android phone, you have a menu obviously, and that's a place where you want to actually launch your application. So if there's a icon on that menu which says press me and I'll be launched, that will be your launcher icon. So that's the actual icon that's being shown on your Android phone menu. So that's where the app will actually be launched from. So you can actually create a custom launcher icon, or just use the default Android icons if you want. The next thing is create activity. Basically, if you're using a Java application, you'll have a Java class. If you have a web application, you have a web page. And in Android applications using the Eclipse IDE in Java, we basically call them activities. Okay, so each page that you actually use is an activity. So if you're navigating from one page to another page, in Android terms, you say I'm navigating from one activity to another activity. So what it's asking is, do you want me to create a basic activity that is the first activity that you want to launch when the application has actually launched first? Do you want an activity over there, or are you going to create your own one later? And the next thing is create project in Workspace, and that's asking if you want to actually put this project in a folder and actually put it into your Workspace. And my Workspace location is by default already there in Documents, so that's where the project is being saved. So go over to Next, and since we did click create a custom launcher icon, it will ask us all that. For now, we'll just use the default one that will have an Android image being shown as our icon. And in the next one, it's asking which type of activity you want. we'll use a blank activity so that it'll only create a normal activity where we can do all the programming stuff. So the next stage is it's asking what the name of the blank activity is and what the name of the layout is. Okay, so there's a difference between the name and the activity name and the layout name, and there's a difference in the naming conventions as well. Okay, so let's just change the name of main activity to main, and we'll change the layout name to main. The difference between the activity name and the layout name in terms of naming conventions is that the layout name, it always has to have it always has to start with the small case letter, whereas with the activity name it always has to start with the uppercase letter. So that's the difference between an activity name and a layout name. So once you do that, we click on finish, and we're pretty much done with our job. So there you go, we have the video demo. Hello world. This is our application right now. This is the UI that we have for our application right now, and as you can see, we have the outline where it says what actually is there inside this XML document. And the thing is, all the backend coding with the events and the elements and whatever objects you want to play around with, all the backend stuff that actually takes place in an Android application is actually done in the Java class file. That is the main activity that we created. And all the UI, that is the layout that you actually show to the users, your front end part, is actually done in XML. So you this main.xml, which is present inside the resource folder, that is res, inside of layouts, is main.xml, and that's the XML file that's linked up with the Java class file, which is our main activity. And we'll see actually how that's linked up later. So we have the main.xml, we have two views. First is a graphical layout where you actually see the whole thing. You can drag drop text, you can do anything that you want, and it's very easy. And the second view that you have is main.xml, which is actually the XML view. So you have relative layout up here, which is your root element or parent element. You have text views, that is two text views that we actually imported just now, we just pulled them in. Then we have another text view, that's the second text view that we're using. The default or root element of any XML file, Android XML layout file, is going to be a relative layout, linear layout, table layout. We have different layouts that we can use, and that will be the root element. And other than that, what we use is what actually the elements are being put into the UI. Those are actually put into this XML file. The advantage with this is that you can just drag and drop stuff in the graphical layout, and the XML file will be edited automatically. The next thing that you must know while designing the UI for all these applications is that whenever you click on this particular element, you have a side panel called properties, which you can use right here on the side, and this will contain the position of the particular element in this UI, the text that's there, the value, the text color, the text appearance, everything that you want to edit, you can edit here in the properties, and these properties will be implemented into the XML file automatically, so you don't have to do any of that. It'll be done automatically. And just to show you an example, we'll select large text over here, and we'll go over to text over here in the properties, click on that, and we'll change it to hello, my name is Chanakya, because my name is Chanakya and I'm from Team Geeks. So there you go. So that text is changed right over here, and you can change text properties, you can change text color, we can change it to red if we want. Red isn't a color given over there, we have to give it with the hash symbol, that is the pound symbol, otherwise known. So you can define colors like that as well. 0000, 60 should be the right one. So there you go, 60 is black. What you can also do is you can click on that. Sorry, just click on that once. There you go. Pound symbol 101010, and let's see what color that is. That is black as well. So we'll give another color. We'll give a bigger color this one, guys. 66666. So there you go. We have a different color over here, a grayish color. You can use blue as well, I guess. Whatever color you want. Let's copy this over here, put it in over here. This is how you can define it as well. That shows an error as well. So we'll remain with the pound symbol. And there you go, we have green now. So that's how you can actually play around with the properties, just to give you basic idea. And you can see the outline over here is changing in the inside of the relative layout. We actually have two text views right now, text view 1 and text view 2. And whenever you do it, you have an ID for any element that you put inside the Android application. That ID will be actually used to refer to it inside the Java file. By default, 1, 2, text view 1 is for the first text view 2 for the second text view, button 1, button 2. That'll be the IDs that are given by default. But if you want to change them, you can obviously change them over here. I'll change it over to my button. My text. So that'll change the ID to my text. As you can see, it's already done that over here. So the first thing that we have says my text over here. So now let's go over to the source file, that is our main activity, which is actually our first Java file. So you go over, this is the application that we have, video demo, and you have a layout over here, main.xml, and then we can go over to the source folder. We have org.geeks, the package, and there we have main.java, which is our main activity or main file, which is actually taking care of all the backend stuff. Every event that's being taking place is taking place inside this main.java, and you can see it already has a bunch of stuff included into it. I'll just delete all that and we'll do it from the starting so that you guys understand. So the first step will be to make our class, public class main, and the first point whenever you're doing Android programming, the class has to extend the activity class, and what that'll do is it'll actually raise an error. Click on that and you'll have to import the android.app.activity package, which consists all the classes and methods and properties and everything that this activity class has. So the next step will be to put in the Oncreate bundle function. So Oncreate and then control space to get hints, and you can see we have the Oncreate bundle saved instance state method, which we have that we have to put. So this is basically like a main method in a Java file, and this is the method that will actually be called upon when you actually launch the application. So we'll click on enter or return, and there you go, we have the method right now. And the reason why we have override over here is because we have the same method already defined in a lot of classes already. So what it'll actually do, this will override any of those instances and it'll only run this thing. So here we have super.onCreate saved instances, and the next thing is we have to actually link this main.java or this main activity to the XML file. So to do that, we use the set content view method, and in this we give r.layout dot, and you can see we have only one layout right now, and that is main. So we click on enter or return, and there you can see r.layout.main means that inside our application, inside layouts, we actually have XML file named main, which is actually defining the UI screen for this particular Java class. Okay, so that'll do the set content view. So we're done now with the application. We have the content view set up over here. So the main activity is actually extending the activity class, and we have the content view, that is the main.xml, linked up to this main.java. So there's one more element that you have to view in your Android application, and that is the manifest file, which actually defines the whole structure of the project, the structure of the application, and which activities you actually have. So we'll go over there. You can see it right below saying Androidmanifest.xml, and this is an XML file, and this is the reason why you actually have to know XML, because there's going to be a lot of XML regarding the UI, regarding the resources, regarding properties, and regarding Android manifests and stuff like that. So you have to understand basic XML. You can't do everything using the graphical user interface. You also have to go and play around with the XML stuff as well. So if we go over to Androidmanifest.xml, you can see we have a UI screen over here, but instead of that, we'll go over to the Androidmanifest.xml in XML format, and you can see we start off with the XML tag. Then we have the XML declaration. Then we have the manifest element, and inside the manifest element, it's defining the package, the Android version code, the version name, and then it defines the SDKs, where we're defining which minimum SDK version we're using, what is the target SDK version as well. And then you have the actual application right over here, and inside the application we're actually defining what is the launcher icon, what is the label of the app, what is our theme, which we already, and we defined all of these while we were actually creating the project in the starting. So that's where we actually defined which element we actually wanted over here in the XML file. And the activity that we have over here says Android name org.geeks.main. So this is defining our first Android activity, which will actually be launched when we actually open up our application. And we actually have to define that as well, and that's defined inside of this intent filter, which actually defines that, okay, whenever you open this particular application, the org.geeks.main class is the one that you actually want to launch up as the home page. So that's what this Android.intent.category.launcher and Android.intent.action.main actually define over here inside of the intent filter. So now that we're done with our application, if you want to run it, you actually have to have an emulator, or else you have to have a phone, an Android phone. But actually downloading the SDK, the APK file, and then putting it on a mobile device, and then checking it up each and every time you want to test your application will actually be time-taking, and it is wasteful, because Android has also provided an emulator which will actually emulate each and every action that your application does right here on your laptop or computer or desktop or whatever you're using. So for that, you'll actually have to create a new Android virtual device, that is a new emulator, to actually emulate your applications. For that, you'll have to go over to here where we have the Android Virtual Device Manager, and right next to it you have the Android SDK Manager. The reason why these two are actually here is the Android SDK Manager is actually connected to your internet. So if you click on that, you can actually download new SDKs, updated SDKs, so you don't have to download the whole Adt bundle every time an SDK is updated. And if you want some previous SDKs which are actually there with previous versions of Android, and you don't have them, you want them, then you go over to the Sdk Manager and you can download them as well and include them into your Eclipse IDE. The AVD Manager, that is the Android Virtual Device Manager, is actually there for you guys to actually add virtual devices. So just click on that. You should have a screen like this saying Android Virtual Device Manager, and over here I have 4 AVDs already defined. But if you're just opening the Eclipse IDE for the first time, then you have to actually create your own own AVD. So for that, we'll click on New, and over here we give that AVD name as Video AVD. We can select the device. If I were you, always select devices which have a smaller screen size, because it'll take lesser time for the emulator to open up and it looks better. So we'll take a 4-inch WVGA, and the rest, we have a CPU. It actually has an ARM image which actually defines how the emulator is seen. If you don't have that image, then it won't be seen. You can select the target API. Our Android application is already selected for Android API level 17, so we don't have to do that. The rest all is the memory options. The reason why the Android emulator actually takes more time than the Windows emulator or iOS emulator is because Android doesn't only simulate the visual part, it also emulates how the memory works inside an Android device, how the database works inside an Android device, how the SD card works, and that's why we have the memory options, internal storage, and the SD card options over here as well. So if you click on OK, you should see that a video AVD is selected over here. So now that we have our new AVD, we can just close it, and then we can go over to video demo, click on it, right click on it. If you're a Mac user, then control click, run as Android application will actually, if you click run as Android application, then what it's going to do is it'll actually run your Android application on whatever default AVD is set. If you want to select a particular Android virtual device, then you have to go to run configurations, and you should have the run configurations window shown, and on that you can select the target. Over here I'll select video AVD. So once that's selected, you can click run, and your Android, you can see over here is loading. The SDK is opened up right now, and if you see right over here in the console, we should have over here, if we go to the Android perspective, you can see how the Android new emulator found waiting for home. So it's actually going to show you the status of how the whole thing is being launched, how the AVD is actually being launched. So We can see over here the emulator is slowly starting up. If you're working on a particular project and you want to test it regularly, I would say keep your Android emulator on because it takes a bit of time to boot up. So if you're using it for the first time, then it'll take some time, but from the second time onwards, if you keep it open, you can test your app much more quicker. So let's just give it a couple of minutes to actually boot up. In the meanwhile, I will be doing more tutorials on Android, Java, XML, and stuff like that. We do a lot of technical related stuff. Geeks stands for Giving Experience and Exposure in Computer Science, computer with a K, and we do training and all kinds of stuff. We do workshops. We also provide people with designs. We do various designs. We do web designing. We do poster designing using Photoshop. We even design teasers and trailers using Adobe After Effects as well. So if you guys ever need our services, please do feel free to contact us. My name is Chanakya Lokam. You can contact me at clokam2, CLOKAM2 @gmail.com, or you can contact any of my colleagues. If you want to meet us on Facebook or YouTube, we have our channels. My channel is www.youtube.com/clokam2. If you want to reach the geeks people, it is /CBS Geeks, that is CBSGEEKS, double E in the middle. So you can visit our videos. We have a lot of videos on various technologies. You can view that as well. You can also view our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/cbsgeeks, and you can also go over to any of our pages. Approach us on Facebook as well. We are available for help, and we are there for helping you guys. And the Android emulator is actually taking a bit more time than usual. So what we'll actually do is we'll actually close this, and let's try running it with another emulator and just see what the problem is. So run as, run configurations, and we'll go over to target again, and let's select demo AVD, click apply, and run it. And okay, let's just read what that's saying. Launching an emulator with the virtual device, demo AVD, new emulator found, emulator 5554, waiting for home to be launched. So later took a bit of time, but once you get the emulator running, this is how it'll actually look like. And over here we actually can browse through it just like we're actually using a real phone. So you can click on the menu button over here, which will actually take, it'll be a bit slower than your average Samsung Galaxy or stuff like that you use. It's not going to be super fast, but then okay. And over here you can see right below there, after all the apps, we have the app that we created, which is called Video Demo, and this is the launcher icon that I was talking about. We have a default icon right now over here. You can put in whatever icon you actually want, but the launcher icon that he gives is fine as well. So if we click on that, we should open up our app which says, hello, I'm Chanakya from Team Geeks. So, and there we go. Hello world, hello, my name is Chanakya, and I'm from Team Geeks. And yes, I am from Team Geeks. And so I hope you guys liked my tutorial, understood Android, and it's pretty easy once you get going through it. We will be releasing more tutorials as well. Please do encourage us, please do share our videos, please do recommend us to your friends as well, and if you need any help, please do beckon off to us. We are always there to help, and please do like our videos and like us on Facebook as well. Thank you so much.